You don't make someone miss you by disappearing. You make someone miss you by being unforgettable when you're around. Too many people think that absence is power, that if you pull back far enough, they'll finally realize your worth. But the truth is, people don't miss absence, they miss essence. What he'll miss is the way you made him feel, the energy you carried, the calm in your voice, the way your presence lifted the room without trying. You see, when a woman stands in her value, she stops trying to convince anyone of it. She no longer chases validation because she's rooted in something deeper, purpose. When you're lit from within, you become the kind of person who doesn't need to be pursued. You become the kind of person who inspires pursuit. A man doesn't miss you because you're gone. He misses you because he remembers what it felt like when he was with you. The peace, the laughter, the effortless connection. But that feeling only exists when you stop performing for his attention and start living for your fulfillment. Ask yourself, what kind of energy do you leave behind when you exit a room? Is it the energy of someone waiting to be chosen or someone who has already chosen herself? When you fill your life with meaning, your passions, your friendships, your joy, you create a kind of mystery that no game can replicate. You become the woman whose life moves forward with or without him. That's the paradox when you no longer need him to miss you. That's when he can't stop thinking about you. Because the rarest thing in today's world is a person who is whole on their own, a person who can love deeply but still stand firmly in their own truth, a person who isn't swayed by attention but guided by alignment. So stop asking, how can I make him miss me? And start asking, what kind of woman am I becoming while he's away? Because when you evolve, when you grow, when you radiate that quiet confidence, you create a gravitational pull that no amount of distance can break. Let him feel your absence, yes, but more importantly, let him remember your presence, not because you played a game, but because you lived in truth, because you loved with depth, because you walked away with grace. And when you do that, you won't just make a man miss you. You'll make him realize he may never meet anyone like you again. Would you like me to adjust the tone slightly? For example, make it sound more like a stage speech, rhythmic and emotional, or more like a video talk, essence, intimate and conversational. When it comes to making someone truly miss you, the first thing to understand is that missing someone is not born from the silence of your absence. It's born from the memory of how you made them feel when you were around. Physical space might create temporary curiosity, but emotional impact creates lasting desire. You can't force someone to long for you just because you've stepped away. They'll only long for you if what they experienced in your presence touched something deeper in their soul. That's why emotional imprint matters far more than physical distance. Think about it. We all meet people every day, but only a handful of them ever stay with us. It's not because they said the right words or dressed perfectly. It's because something in their energy, their authenticity, or their spirit made an impression that lingers. It's the same when it comes to romantic connection. You don't want a man to miss the texts, the calls, or the attention. You want him to miss the feeling that came with your presence. That feeling comes from alignment. When your energy, your words, and your actions reflect a deep sense of self-worth, when you are grounded in who you are, you naturally bring peace instead of pressure, curiosity instead of need, and light instead of demand. That emotional balance is magnetic because it's rare. A woman who can love without losing herself, who can give without begging for return, creates an atmosphere that leaves an emotional fingerprint. People don't miss chaos, they miss calm. They don't miss someone who was desperate for attention. They miss the one who was generous with her energy, but never careless with it. So if you want to make a man miss you, focus on what emotional experience you are creating when you are with him. Are you leaving him feeling inspired, appreciated, and valued, or drained, confused, and uncertain? Emotional imprint isn't about being perfect. It's about being there present. It's about showing up with an energy that's honest, secure, and warm enough to be remembered when you're gone. The power of emotional imprint lies in its subtlety. It's not about dramatic gestures or playing hard to get. It's about the quiet moments, the laughter you share without expectation, the kindness that doesn't seek approval, the genuine interest you show without losing your independence. Those moments sink deeper than words. They tell him that being around you feels like peace, like home, like truth. And when that feeling is gone, it creates a void that no one else can easily fill. That's the kind of longing you want to cultivate, not the anxious kind that comes from withdrawal, but the soulful kind that comes from connection. When a man feels emotionally safe, understood, and respected in your presence, he will crave that energy again and again. He won't even be able to explain it. It's not logical, it's emotional, it's instinctive, because emotional memory doesn't fade quickly. It lingers, echoing long after the physical presence is gone. So instead of trying to pull away strategically, pour your effort into creating moments of genuine connection when you're together. Let your authenticity speak louder than any tactic. Show your joy, your passion, your boundaries, your grace. Those are the things that make you unforgettable. A woman who is emotionally intelligent, who knows how to communicate with kindness and clarity, becomes the kind of woman a man can't stop thinking about, not because she's hard to get, but because she's hard to ever replace. When your energy uplifts him instead of consuming him, when your presence brings peace instead of pressure, that's when missing you becomes inevitable. Because no matter who comes after you, no one else can replicate the unique emotional fingerprint you've left behind. And that the emotional imprint you create is what keeps echoing in his heart long after you've walked away. There is something magnetic about a person who knows their worth. You can feel it before they speak, before they move, even before they make eye contact. Their energy tells a quiet story. I am not here to be chosen. I am here to choose what aligns with my value. That kind of confidence is not arrogance, it's peace. It's the calm assurance that comes from knowing you bring something extraordinary to the table and that you don't need to chase anyone to prove it. When you operate from that place of self-value, you naturally become unforgettable, not because you demand attention, but because you radiate a sense of purpose that others can't help but notice. A man doesn't miss you because you beg for his affection. He misses you because your energy leaves a mark that can't be replicated. The moment you stop seeking to be enough for someone else and start honoring the fact that you already are, you shift the power dynamic completely. You stop playing small. You stop over-giving, over-explaining, and over-trying. Instead, you begin to embody grace. Grace in your boundaries, grace in your absence, and grace in your presence. That grace is deeply attractive because it signals that you have a life, a mission, and a sense of worth that isn't dependent on someone else's validation. When you're rooted in self-value, your energy says, I love being with you, but I'm whole without you. That balance creates desire. It makes a man feel that he has something meaningful to lose, not because you threaten to walk away, but because you genuinely don't need to stay where your peace is compromised. And that's what makes you powerful. Your strength doesn't lie in how tightly you can hold on, but in how gracefully you can let go. Men are drawn to women who live with standards, not because standards are barriers, but because they are indicators of depth. They tell the world that you've done the inner work, that you understand your worth is not negotiable. When you say no to what doesn't serve you, you're not pushing love away. You're making space for real love to find you. That's the paradox. The moment you stop grasping, you start attracting, because love flows naturally towards self-assured energy. When you love yourself enough to walk in alignment with your values, you create a feeling of trust. A man knows he can't manipulate or diminish someone who is already anchored in her own sense of self. He knows that your interest is a gift, not a guarantee. That kind of woman stands out because she's rare in a world that often rewards chasing over choosing. She's the woman who doesn't compete for attention, she commands it through authenticity. Self-value also changes how you communicate. Instead of reacting from fear, you respond from clarity. You no longer need to explain your worth through long speeches or emotional bargains. Your actions, your boundaries, and your peace speak louder than anything you could say. And that quiet confidence creates a powerful emotional impact. A man might not always understand it logically, but he feels it. He feels safer, more inspired, more grounded in your presence. And when he's away, he feels the absence of that energy deeply. You see, value doesn't shout, it whispers. It's not loud or performative. It's steady, calm, and consistent. It's in the way you carry yourself, the way you treat others, and the way you treat yourself. When you hold yourself with respect, people notice. When you stop chasing and start living, people lean in. When you focus on your growth, your passions, your peace, your glow changes. You become radiant, not from attention, but from alignment. And that radiance is unforgettable. It's what makes a man think about you long after you've gone silent. Not because he misses the validation you gave him, but because he misses the feeling of being in the presence of someone who knew her worth and still chose to give love freely. That kind of woman doesn't just pass through a man's life, she leaves a mark that lingers, a reminder of what true value feels like. Fulfillment has a mystery to it that no strategy or game can ever reproduce. When you are fulfilled, when your life has meaning beyond romance, You automatically create a kind of space that draws people towards you instead of pushing them away. It's not that you are trying to be mysterious. It's that your happiness no longer revolves around one person's attention. You become interesting because your energy is focused on growth, on purpose, on living fully. That's the kind of energy that a man misses because it's alive. It's not desperate, not stagnant, not waiting. It's moving. And movement, by its nature, is magnetic. When you live a life that excites you, you give off a frequency that says, I am already whole. That wholeness doesn't intimidate the right man. It captivates him. He sees that you have a world he wants to be part of, a rhythm that he doesn't want to disturb, but desires to dance with. A fulfilled woman carries a glow that doesn't fade when she's alone. Her joy doesn't depend on texts or validation. It comes from within. And because her light doesn't dim in solitude, it shines even brighter in connection. Most people lose their sense of mystery because they lose their sense of self. They become so focused on making someone love them that they forget to live. They start orbiting another person's world instead of expanding their own. But real attraction comes when your world is so rich, so full, that someone else wants to be invited in. Fulfillment creates that richness. When you are passionate about your work, your goals, your friendships, your spiritual growth, your laughter, it all adds layers to your personality. It makes you unpredictable in the most beautiful way because every day you are discovering something new about yourself. The mystery you create through fulfillment isn't about being distant or unavailable. It's about being deeply present in your own life. It's about knowing that your time, your attention, and your energy are precious. You don't withhold them to play a game. You simply protect them because they are valuable. That natural boundary keeps people intrigued. A man begins to wonder what occupies your mind, what drives your smile, what fills your days. He doesn't just miss you because you're gone, he misses the aliveness you bring when you're near. Fulfillment also changes the energy of your interactions. You stop coming from a place of need and start coming from a place of abundance. You're no longer asking, what can this person give me? But instead, what can we create together? That subtle shift transforms the dynamic completely. It removes pressure, invites curiosity, and builds genuine connection. A fulfilled woman doesn't need to prove anything. She simply is. And that authenticity has gravity. When a man senses that your happiness is not dependent on him, he respects you more. He begins to see you not as an accessory to his life, but as a universe of your own. He realizes that he can't control you, can't predict you, can't own you, and that realization makes him lean in. The greatest mystery is a woman who can love fully and still remain free. The one who can give deeply but never lose herself in the process. The truth is, fulfillment is not selfish, it's sacred. It's what keeps your energy pure. It's what ensures that when you give, it comes from love and not from fear. When your soul is nourished, your presence becomes healing. People feel better when they're around you because you're not trying to take from them. You're simply overflowing. That's what a man misses when you're gone. Not the games, not the attention, but the feeling of being near someone who is deeply alive, deeply connected, and completely at peace with herself. When you live in fulfillment, you don't need to chase mystery. It follows you. Because mystery isn't in what you hide, it's in what you embody. It's in the strength of a woman who is content, curious, and courageous enough to keep growing. And that kind of woman doesn't need to make a man miss her. Her very presence ensures that he will. Consistency and boundaries are two of the most underrated forms of attraction. People often believe that creating desire is about distance, about pulling away to make someone chase. But it isn't space alone that builds longing. It's the stability of your standards and the clarity of your energy. When you are consistent in who you are and firm in what you accept, you become both safe and irresistible. You communicate to the world and to any man in it that your love is not random. It's intentional. You are not moved by whims or flattery, but by truth and alignment. A man begins to miss you when he realizes your boundaries are not walls. They are invitations to respect. They show him that access to your time, your attention, and your heart must be earned, not assumed. Boundaries are not about punishment. They are about protection. They protect your peace, your energy, and your dignity. And that protection is what gives your love meaning. Because love without boundaries turns into exhaustion, and exhaustion is never attractive. When you hold steady to your standards, you teach him how to treat you without ever having to explain it twice. Consistency adds to this power. It tells him that you are not performing a version yourself to win approval. You are living from a core truth. You don't act warm one day and distant the next based on how he behaves. You stay rooted, you remain kind, but not naive. You remain open, but not desperate. That steady energy builds emotional safety. It makes you memorable because in a world of unpredictability, you represent calm. You become the person he can't forget, not because you're dramatic or hard to get, but because your energy feels grounded and rare. Many people confuse boundaries with control, but they're not the same. Control tries to manipulate another person's behavior. Boundaries simply define your own. You're not telling him what to do. You're telling yourself what you will no longer tolerate. And when you follow through with consistency, that message becomes powerful. You no longer need to repeat yourself. Your actions do the speaking. A man may test your boundaries, but once he sees that they're not negotiable, he begins to trust your strength. And paradoxically, that trust deepens his desire. Consistency also means showing up as the same person privately and publicly, emotionally and spiritually. It means keeping your promises to yourself. If you say you'll walk away when respect disappears, you follow through. If you say you'll take time for self-care, you honor it. Every time you keep your word to yourself, your confidence grows. And confidence, when coupled with kindness, is a force that captivates. It's what makes your presence feel like truth and your absence feel like loss. When your boundaries are clear and your consistency unwavering, you no longer have to wonder how to make someone miss you. They will, because they will feel the difference between you and everyone else who bends, compromises, or loses themselves for love. You become the woman whose energy stays the same whether she's being praised or ignored. That emotional steadiness is powerful. It shows that your happiness is self-sourced, not borrowed from anyone's attention. A man misses that kind of energy because it challenges him. It makes him rise, makes him think, makes him remember what it feels like to be around someone who values herself deeply. He might meet others who are exciting or easy, but he won't find the same peace he felt with you. Boundaries create respect, and consistency creates trust, and those two together create the kind of bond that lingers long after the connection pauses. The truth is, a woman who honors her boundaries and lives consistently doesn't need to play games to be remembered. Her integrity is the game changer. Her predictability in values makes her mysterious in a world where everyone else keeps changing their tune. When she walks away, it isn't with anger, it's with calm certainty. And that calm becomes haunting. Because when someone experiences the energy of a person who knows exactly who she is, they don't just remember her, they crave the safety and strength that came with her presence.